All right, let's pull back the curtain on one of the most electric and honestly devastating plays ever written. Tennessee Williams's absolute masterpiece, A Streetcar Named Desire. Right there. That one line from the play's hero, Blanche Dubois, tells you everything you need to know. It's a declaration. It's a battle cry. She's a woman who literally survives by spinning illusions, by creating her own version of reality. But what happens when that beautiful, fragile magic runs head-on into a wall of brutal, unforgiving reality? Well, that's the whole story, isn't it? You have Blanche, this faded Southern belle, showing up at her sister's tiny apartment, and she immediately finds herself in a primal conflict with her brother-in-law, Stanley Kowalski. It's a collision of worlds that still feels incredibly real today, and we're going to break down exactly why.
Okay, so to really get this clash between magic and reality, you first have to understand the battlefield. And that battlefield is the hot, sweaty, post-World War II city of New Orleans.
And listen, this isn't just some random backdrop. It's a pressure cooker. The neighborhood, Elysian Fields, is cramped, it's loud, it's simmering with this new, raw energy. It's the perfect place for a showdown between two completely different versions of America. One that's kind of fading away, clinging to its old-fashioned manners and illusions, and a new one that's rising up, full of this raw, immigrant working-class power.
So, who dreamed up this incredible, tense world? Well, the playwright Tennessee Williams. He wasn't just an observer making things up, no. He was pouring his own life, his own pain, directly onto every single page.
I mean, just look at how his real life bleeds into the play. Blanche, with her incredibly delicate mental state, that was inspired by his own sister, Rose, who tragically had to have a lobotomy. His deep understanding of what it feels like to be an outsider, to hide your desires. Well, as a gay man in a deeply intolerant era, he knew that feeling inside and out. And the constant presence of abuse and alcoholism in the play, you can feel the echoes of his own family's pain in those dark, difficult scenes.
And all of that personal history, all that pain, it gets channeled into two of the most iconic characters in American theater. They aren't just people, they are the living, breathing embodiment of the play's central fight.
So, on one side you have Blanche Dubois. She's the last gasp of the Old South, all illusion, poetry, and a kind of beautiful, delicate fragility. And on the other side, bam, you get Stanley Kowalski. He is the raw, animal energy of the new industrial America. He's a working-class guy who only deals in cold, hard, brutal facts. They're like oil and water. No, they're like fire and gasoline. A collision is not just likely, it's inevitable.
Stanley's whole worldview is just brutally simple. When he screams, "I am the king around here," he's not just talking about his two-room apartment. He's laying out his entire philosophy for life. A world where physical power and dominance are the only laws that actually matter.
And Blanche's view? It's the total opposite. When she begs her sister Stella, "Don't hang back with the brutes," it's not just a snobby insult toward Stanley. She is trying to save her sister from a world she finds completely primitive and dangerous. It's a world that absolutely terrifies her.
So how in the world do we start to unpack all of this? I mean, the play is just weaving together these really complex ideas about gender, about power, about trauma. To make sense of it all, though, there's a simple little framework we can use.
Let's just call it the DPT framework: gender, power, and trauma. These three concepts are tangled up in almost every single scene, and if you keep an eye on them, they really unlock why these characters act in such self-destructive ways.
Okay, so here's how it works. First up, G for gender. At its core, this play is a battle of the sexes, tapping into all this anxiety from the post-war era. And that leads directly to P for power. Every conversation, every argument, it's a struggle for control. A struggle over class, over gender, or just over who's physically stronger. But the real engine driving everything, that's T for trauma. Blanche especially is just haunted by her past. Her lies, her drinking, her desperation, it all comes from a deep history of grief, abuse, and loss.
And to really get inside these characters' heads, especially Blanche's, Williams uses this incredibly rich tapestry of symbolism. You really got to pay attention to it. Let's look at a couple of the big ones.
A perfect example is the paper lantern. Blanche always insists on putting it over a bare light bulb, but it's so much more than that. It's her desperate attempt to soften the harsh glare of reality, right? To create a little bit of magic to hide behind. It's pretty, but it's also made of paper. It's incredibly fragile and it can be ripped away in a second, just like her. And then there's all the bathing. Blanche is constantly in the tub, and it's this ritual. It's her attempt to literally wash away her past, the guilt, the trauma, the grime of this world she feels she's been dropped into. It's this constant,
desperate and ultimately totally hopeless search for a fresh start.
And finally, there's the music. This specific song, the Varsuviana Polka, this is seriously chilling. It's the tune that was playing the night her young husband took his own life, and now it plays only in her head. It's the soundtrack to her breaking down. Whenever we, the audience, hear that polka start up, we know she's losing her grip.
So you put all this together, the symbols, the characters, the raw emotion, and you get this profound tragedy. So the big question is, why does this play still hit so hard? Why has it endured for all these years?
Well, for starters, people knew it was a masterpiece right away. In 1948, just a year after it opened, it won the Pulitzer Prize. That pretty much cemented it as a cornerstone of American theater from the get-go.
But it's more than just awards. Streetcar endures because the stuff it's talking about is timeless. It's a brutal look at how society treats people who are fragile, people who are different. It digs into the destructive power of desire, the tragedy of having your dreams shattered, and it captures this huge moment of change in America perfectly.
And the play's tragedy never hits harder than in Blanche's final, absolutely devastating line. As she's being led away to a mental institution, this is what she says. It's just shattering, because the one thing she always tried to believe in, simple kindness, is the very thing the world completely refused to give her in the end.
Which leaves us with a huge question, one that sits at the very heart of the play. It's the question Tennessee Williams kind of leaves on our doorstep. In a world that so often prizes strength, that demands brutal realism, what happens to the dreamers? What happens to the people who just need a little bit of magic to get by?